when we were contacted from your publication, we looked at the email and we're like, Future Rockstars of America. What is that?
I know.
You know, that was sort of like...
Maybe anti-Rockstars.
Yeah. We might...
I know that it's like sometimes nowadays we just refer to FRA as much as possible because, you know, somehow Rockstar kind of became like a 4-letter word, so... But it's there already, so...
Yeah, FRA sounds like a revolution.
When are you guys gonna come down to LA and play a show? Anytime soon?
Well, you know, that's an invitation for an interesting answer, because we actually try to stay away from LA for some reasons that, you know, like are, I think, connected to the stereotype of what a rock star is. You know, like I think when we try to avoid the earthquakes, the rock star scene, and all of that. Oh yeah, we the last show we played there was actually a free show right outside of the South Central Farm, right after it was bulldozed over, and you know that was a whole major issue for a lot of communities because these families were feeding themselves off of producing organic produce and you know really beautiful 14-acre farm in South Central LA. Then it was bulldozed to make a warehouse. You know, we did a lot of support for them, and then we went out after the farm was bulldozed and played a free show, and that was awesome. We really connected with some folks. So we do go out for some special occasions, but we don't hang out in the typical, you know, rock stars scene at all. But hopefully we'll get out there soon for our next tour that will be in November. Stay posted on the website.
Okay.
Because most of the time we operate by word of mouth.
Yeah, we do guerrilla touring too. And that's actually how we operate our quote-unquote campaign as a band to get our message out there, to get our voice heard, is we sometimes will do everything sort of guerrilla style. Let's go out a couple shows here and there, promote things, you know, try to connect with different people in community. As my brother said earlier, when we try to make friends, not fans, we go out to these communities that we feel like we have some connection to through the messages, or feel like we need to have those messages there, because we actually do workshops too with youth. Sometimes we'll go into juvenile detention centers and we'll talk to youth about music, creativity, anger, expression, and just the different things that they see going wrong in their community and maybe what they can do to right those wrongs. And you know, we do that all over the place in different reservations. We do that in all types of communities, different schools with like quote-unquote at-risk youth, you know, because there's a need for that. And music can be a powerful healing tool. You know, of course, we try to do what we can, wherever we can, and sometimes we get mentioned in like the Rolling Stone, you know, corporate magazine, which is great. But it's sort of weird at the same time because, you know, we're just doing our thing, and we do our thing by word of mouth.
Yeah.
I think that's probably our biggest strength and sometimes our biggest weakness, is that we can only grow as much as we can manage ourselves. And because we do everything word of mouth and we try to maintain independence, we have strength in that because we have like our integrity and we have control of what we're doing. And now there's better opportunities for independent bands to have success that way. Like you have cdbaby.com out there for distribution. You have digital distribution, which, you know, now is so accessible that, you know, everybody you can just record an album and not even deal with packaging. You could release it online.
Yeah.
Sure, your market's limited, but more and more that's becoming a viable opportunity for independent artists to be able to maintain themselves and say, hey, we don't need these corporate labels, you know, who have just been like ripping off the bands and ripping off the fans of music, the people who enjoy music. We don't need those folks. We can do it ourselves. And, you know, and we can do it well, and we can maintain, and that's what we do, actually. I mean, a lot of people are amazed when we tell them that all we do is just play music, you know, and we live off of that. You know, sometimes it's a struggle, because when you're working, when you're not, you're not.
Yeah.
You know, we got a lot of other responsibilities. Of course, we do our traditional dances, and we tour with that as well. My brother does silversmithing sometimes.
We also perform with the symphony as well. There's a symphony project. The piece is called Triumph, and we worked with a composer and conductor, Randall Fleischer. The last time we performed it, we had a 78-piece orchestra.
In Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow.
And through the symphonic piece, we're sharing traditional Navajo song and dance, and it's combined.
We also do traditional
traditional Native American dance, educational. It's something from the heart that's very ancient, that has a lot of meaning, and there's a critical need to help break down stereotypes and racism. We try not to compromise our integrity and who we are as individuals. We have our values. We always play all ages shows, and just a lot of that responsibility to our community and to the people.
One thing real quick I want to add to that is a cool experience we had once. We were hanging out with Joey Ramone. After the Ramones broke up, we brought him out to Navajo Nation to perform a show, and we were working with him because he was a really strong supporter of independent music, and also sang on our last full-length album, One Nation Under. We were like, or Clayton was saying about lobotomy.
Sometimes we play these really intense, heavy shows, where we're talking about politics, these different issues that we're faced with. So I kind of sort of cracked a joke, because I was saying we needed a song for the kids to get mindless to, and we played lobotomy, and just kind of as a little lighthearted joke. And he's like, no, that's a very, very serious political song. That song is written for the people who are institutionalized, that have mental disabilities, that can't speak out for themselves. Their rights are stripped away. And I was like, wow. I totally viewed it.
It was the coolest thing, because, and the reason I wanted to share that story is because in the 80s, when you heard the commercial music on the radio, it just sounded so superficial. And the first time we heard punk, like one of our mom's friends gave us a tape with the Ramones, with Bad Brains, and a lot of other bands. And it just blew our minds, because we could relate to that. We could relate to the frustration, the anger, and the messages that were in a lot of this music. So for anybody to say, oh, the music should only be about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, we're here to break that stereotype. We have the power to determine what we want, and we're gonna determine who we are, based upon where we come from and what we want to see in this world.